It's the 10 to 1 podcast with your host, Brad Oman, featuring Ben Conowitz and Nate Laux. And here's the podcast.
Here it is, fellas. Here it is.
Another week down.
And another one.
And another one.
Another one.
Bites the dust.
About.
It's
Another Saturday Night
Schumer
Live
time.
episode.
Amy Schumer.
Hey, how many times?
What is that? Is that like you making up like a weird theme for her show? It's Schumer time.
Yeah.
It's like a weird Pee-wee's Playhouse version of Amy Schumer.
That's the wacky word of the day is Schumer.
Hey, Ben, how many times has Amy Schumer hosted?
I'm going to say this is her third go.
It is her third go.
Correct.
Yeah.
When was the last time she hosted?
Probably for 2015 for Trainwreck.
Man, that's really good. No, that was the first time.
No.
That was the first time?
Yeah, that was the first time.
2018?
Correct.
Yeah.
What film?
Would have been for I Feel Pretty, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right.
Amy Schumer hosted this episode with musical guest Paul Lacey. Was that his name?
Paul Acey. Palacey.
What was it though? Is that was it?
Paul Anka.
Was that it?
No, it was something Lacey, right? We never talk about the music. I didn't prepare for the music.
Preston Lacey.
Steve Lacey.
Steve Lacey.
Of course. Steve. Okay.
Steve Perry.
Ben, give me a couple of Steve Lacey songs. Come on, for our listeners, so they know.
Yeah, no, he's very much responsible for Gumdrop House and Hat of the Tiger,
Yes.
which is a takeoff of the Survivor.
I will say I did listen to. I always listen to like maybe like a minute of the music performance to see if I like it, and I like his vibe. I wasn't like I was like someone I want to start listening to a lot, but I did like he has kind of a little bit of a throwback R&B kind of vibe in a way, like electronic R&B.
It's gonna sound like it's a slam. I'm really not trying to slam you. Isn't it sad though that like these days anybody that's producing content has about a minute to impress us? Like I'll listen for a minute. Nah, that's a lot of pressure.
But for me, it's mostly because I just want to get to the sketches.
Oh, I get it.
So like
No,
I'm
I get it.
not gonna sit there and watch.
I am that bad though, right?
oh yeah, if I hear something like that for me.
Well, I think if by a minute, if I don't like the song, I'm not going to like the
That's
song. But what's gotten me is throughout this whole season, not everyone, but there's been a lot of people that are just huge in the music world, and I don't know them.
Yeah.
And that's been really hard for me.
Yeah, we're at that age, boys.
Yep, it's starting to happen.
Yep. We've locked into our tastes. We know who we know, and we're moving on.
And I saw people online that are like, they're getting no names in here. I'm like, nope,
No,
these aren't no names. These are huge.
Very famous.
popular.
Very famous. All right, so let's get into the episode, right? Amy Schumer and the cold open. How did it go, Nate?
Cold open, President Biden midterms address written by Will Steven, Brian Tucker, Joe Biden, played by James Austin Johnson, talks about the 2022 U.S. election midterms. Edit for this, we were actually recording this on Election Day, and we were late to record
Because I was voting.
because Ben was voting.
Yep.
And some of the candidates, Marianne Williamson, played by Chloe Feynman, Guy Fieri, played by Molly Carney, Tekashi 6ix9ine, played by Marcelo Hernandez, Stormy Daniels, played by Cecily Strong, Azealia Banks, played by Ego Noel, and Tracy Morgan, played by Kenan Thompson. When's the last time that a current cast member has done an impersonation of a former cast member?
Oh, that's a good question.
Probably Keenan again for Tracy Morgan because he's done it a couple times.
Has he done a Tracy Morgan a couple times? I don't remember, but
The one question I have about this sketch were the breasts on Tracy Morgan's character real?
What?
I don't.
What?
It's a joke about Keenan
Oh, okay. I got you.
because you thought I was going to say Cecily Strong because her big fake boobies were.
Yeah, but Kenan Thompson has lost a lot of weight.
Okay,
so
it didn't work. Okay, I'm not. Sorry, I'm not funny.
easy, drunk uncle.
All right. I did want to. I want to talk about though James Austin Johnson because this is really interesting. Not since Dana Carvey maybe has a cast member done both kind of former president, and this very well could be in 2024 a Biden versus Trump election as well. Do you guys think he does a good Biden impersonation?
It's not as good as his Trump impression, but that's mostly because Biden is harder because he doesn't have as many traits that can be easily parodied or impersonated.
He just sounds like an old man.
Yeah, so like everyone's take on Biden is relatively close to the same. Like they gruff up their voice a little bit, and they kind of squint, and like that's pretty much it.
And Biden does do those things where it's like come on, man, come on, where he feels like everything is so self-evidently like ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. I would say that I think obviously James Austin Johnson got on the show pretty much, not because he's really brilliant and funny, but what got him famous was his Trump impression.
Yeah.
So that is his bread and butter. I think his Biden impersonation a little bit is a little too quick. And it might need to be too quick to get through a sketch because Biden, if you listen to Biden, especially now, he's like, 98 years old.
117.
He's speaking slower and slower.
No, not the president.
But then I thought, because that's as I was listening to him, like it's a fairly good, probably the best Biden impersonation I know. But it's a little too quick, and I thought they probably can't go that slow, or the sketch would just go.
Yeah,
too
they don't
long.
have time. They don't have time.
Let me just say, where am I?
Yes,
that's basically what it is.
But yeah, this sketch was bad. First of all, I hate that we've gone back to like the whole idea of like someone doing a press conference and I also hate the idea when they just do the lazy thing of like, oh, here's a cavalcade of random celebrity impressions of look how crazy it would be if these guys were political candidates.
And this is a throwback to when the cast was oversaturated, and so they just needed to have so many.
Who could do an impersonation? Get in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, these weren't great.
No, they were not great. They first of all, they pick people who like aren't necessarily like fun or even ridiculous enough for a thing like this. I mean, lest we forget, Kanye West attempted to run for president. So like picturing someone like Tekashi 6ix9ine, whatever his name is, like to do something like this. Any of the people they picked, it's just like whatever. I don't care.
I was recently listening to Al Franken on the Pete Holmes podcast, and he talked about he got hired the first season of SNL. But obviously, Al Franken is like an astute political mind and hilarious. I think they've got some really funny writers. I'm not one of those people that thinks that the writers aren't funny, because there was this story that came out that people don't want to come on the show because the writers aren't funny right now, which I think is ridiculous.
Bullshit.
I don't think they have good political writers, though, right now, which is making their political sketches not great. Like, I think Al Franken, and there's been a couple other ones, but Al Franken was on the show for a long time, and he was always the one doing the political sketches. And obviously he became senator eventually. He's a politically astute mind. I wonder if some of it is they've got, obviously, I'm not saying they're naive politically, but maybe
they are probably a little bit.
Maybe, but
the writers are probably skewing a lot younger too.
Yeah, they're not. Maybe that's it. The political nuance of the situations, isn't as good. But their political sketches really over the last couple of years, for me, haven't been that great.
No, and I think it's because you're asking somebody who's generally very funny to do something that's outside of their body. Like, if you're not a good roast comedian, but you're a funny person, you can still write roast jokes. They're just not going to be that good.
Yep.
And I think that's a really great point, Nate, actually, because I don't think that these guys grew up caring about politics at all, the writers. And so it's really hard to just say, oh, yeah, go write political commentary now that just because you're on SNL, you have to. So they're trying their best, but this is what we're getting, and it's not great.
And Conan O'Brien has talked about the difference between that. And when he was on the show, he couldn't do political writing. He said he's just not a good political satirist. And so, I think it does take a special writer. And I'm just not sure if they have it on the cast right now, or in the writing staff. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they do, but...
Yeah, it seems like sometimes they do, but when it's worked, it's been because they've taken the headlines and fit it into like a more typical like sketch format,
game show, or something else, rather than just a freaking
press conference
again.
And again, the joke of there's going to be a red wave and the Democrats are going to lose. I mean, it's kind of played out now. It's election day. We all know it's going to happen. This whole idea of Biden being, and if you've been listening to this show long enough, we also got tired of the Trump stuff like last year. It wasn't that it wasn't well executed. It just became not funny because you did it so much. And I feel some of it with Biden. Biden's not nearly as funny as a character as Trump is. So there's not as much to do, but it is hitting
and
the
I
mark.
feel like this is not the first time that we're saying this. It won't be the last time. It's like, how much else, we're beating a dead horse at this point. Like unless you change my mind, SNL, I will just not think that their political satire is very funny. So it's up to you to change our minds as the audience.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Monologue by Amy Schumer, written by Amy Schumer with an assist from Rosebud Baker. Returning host Amy Schumer talks a few topics, including her pregnancy, not being able to have sex for a while after her pregnancy, her sex life with her husband, and his autism diagnosis. Benjamin, what did you think? It was essentially just Amy Schumer doing stand-up.
Yeah, it's Amy Schumer doing stand-up. I like Amy Schumer's stand-up. I think it was she went a little easy. It was a little.
You could definitely tell that there was stuff that she edited for network TV.
Mm-hmm.
But I still liked it a lot. And I like how her pregnancy has changed her approach to the topics that she has covered before, because she's very much known for it being like a sex topic comedian. But this is like changed, so it gives her new things to talk about, new perspectives, new experiences. And I had never heard her talk about her husband being on the autism spectrum before. So
I'd heard that in her last.
I haven't seen her last special, so that's probably why. But yeah, so I thought that was something that was interesting, and how she did it, was clever, and it's not like she's mocking him for being autistic, but she's like observing the amusing things about his traits because he's on the autism spectrum.
Yeah, it's as you guys have known, doing a little bit of stand up, but as we all have seen, watching so much stand up as we have. Topics like autism can be really difficult to navigate in a funny way that doesn't seem like you're punching down. And she didn't do that with autism. It was, my husband is autistic, but there is comedy from his autism for us as well, right? Not in a bad way.
In the same way that you can still make jokes about trans people and like that concept without punching down and making fun of trans people. There are good and like interesting trans jokes and perspectives to be made without doing it like, certain comedians who may be hosting the show soon.
Yeah, we're going to see what the...
And I think Brad, you make a good point there, because I think that's where we land. That's a little different maybe than some people that are maybe, quote unquote, more liberal or progressive than us, in that we don't think topics typically are like, there are no sacred topics.
Yeah, nothing's off limits, but there
are bad jokes.
Exactly.
And therein lies the problem. When you blanket statement and say there are no off limit topics, that just gives the wrong people the impression like, oh, I can make a bad joke. And that's not what we're saying at all. You just need to know how to be funny about it.
And there are offensive jokes, right? And it's not because the topic was offensive or that you can't talk about that. It's just your joke sucked and it was mean and it was punching down.
Yeah.
So, all right, moving on. Next was a sketch called Soup, written by Allison Gates, Streeter Seidel, Ken Sublett. A woman, played by Amy Schumer, wants to eat soup while her friend Heidi Gardner talks about her and her partner separating, with Ego Nwodim as another friend, Michael Longfellow as the waiter, Marcelo Hernandez and Chloe Feynman as a couple, and then Kenan Thompson comes in, and Kenan's the thing as the singer with the bubble.
This had such good bones. There just wasn't anything there.
It was silly.
I just wish it was better.
I'm a little bit with you, Ben. I kept on waiting. It's like when you go up a roller coaster, right? And you're going, and you're going to get over that horizon, and you're going to get this, like, something's going to happen. And it kept on going. I'm like, all right, they're going to get to it. And it never really hit that mark for me.
Right.
It had good bones. I understand where they were going with it, but there was never the punchline or the thing.
I just didn't understand, like, what. So tell me about, like, in the middle of the sketch when she takes the straw and like tucks it in her shirt, like, do they write that and they're doing the read through and everybody's just busting a gut thinking that's the funniest thing ever and that's why it's going to be on the show? Like, I always am curious how that writers roundtable goes. You see the pictures of them all online and they're all sitting around there trying to make each other laugh, and that must have made the group collectively laugh, right? Why?
I mean, I'm not sure if that's the one like joke where they're like busting a gut over or anything like that, but like, I don't know. Sometimes it's a matter of the timing of like things hit you at a certain time, and like it's the way it's played in the room that it's funnier, and then the execution doesn't necessarily go as well as you think it's going to. Some of this felt like there was like not the best timing with like the physical side of the sketch.
Sure.
And honestly, there's a part of me that thinks that this would have been better if it was like a pre-recorded sketch.
I thought so too.
Especially when they pan over to the other couple. Like, you didn't get that. Like, I picture it as it's happening as her looking over there, and it's like there's a fog filter and like dreamy music is playing, and she like desperately wants, and she's like seeing them enjoy their soup and that kind of thing. And it just didn't feel like it worked as well live as it would have as a pre-tape.
Agreed. I think you could have had some cuts to awkward faces, these kind of things, some more accentuating of the physical comedy that was needed to make this sketch work.
Yeah.
If it would have been a pre-tape, I think a director could have done that. I mean, again, I liked the premise. I thought the premise itself is funny. You're hungry, you're excited to eat, and somebody brings up a serious topic, and all of a sudden, you have to pivot. But I don't want to pivot. I just want to eat
my soup.
I want to eat this matzo ball soup.
Yeah.
Also, did you guys notice too at the very end of the sketch, because she has the big bite of matzo ball in her mouth, that like as soon as the sketch was done, she like spit it all out and then like hurried and rushed off to like get ready for the next sketch?
No, but I always love that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Pre-tape COVID commercial written by Colin Jost, Jake Nordwin. 3 people, played by Heidi Gardner, Michael Longfellow, and Sarah Sherman, purposely get COVID. Andrew Dismukes as Gardner's husband. Cecily Strong as the announcer. Always does great. Again, I always pointed out, but Cecily Strong could have a solid career as a commercial voice actor. Okay, so let's get into the little bit of the controversy of this. So a lot of people on Twitter.
There's a controversy?
There is. So there were a lot of actually medical Twitter that said they didn't appreciate this sketch in that it made light of COVID, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
there's still 2,000 people dying a week in America of COVID.
Yeah, you're right. That's why there's no cancer jokes. That's why there's no AIDS jokes. That's why, we don't have any 9/11 jokes.
And that, people shouldn't want to get COVID because it's still killing a lot of people.
That's the idea. And they even make commentary about it in the sketch itself. First of all, like when it comes to doing anything except for diagnosing medical problems, doctors shut the fuck up. Especially when it comes to jokes. You're not funny. None of you are funny. No doctors are funny.
Hey, Ken Jeong would like a word.
I'll restate. No doctors are funny.
Come on.
No, I like Ken Jeong. But he's not funny because he's a doctor.
No. I saw the actual like pushback before I saw the sketch, and I went to the sketch expecting it to be a little more like taking COVID less seriously, and it really didn't. That wasn't the joke, right?
No,
the joke was
they did the sketch
we
very
all
well.
Need a break right now.
Yeah.
We all need it. We need a break from our kids. We need a break from work.
And it's crazy to think that we need it so bad that we would be happy getting COVID just to get it.
Especially if it was the kind of COVID that you think you're going to get nowadays.
Yeah.
Yep. Most people aren't dying from COVID. And the reality is, and I say that as, again, my wife's an ICU nurse, that is not who is filled in her ICU right now. Like it was a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
God, imagine if we were recording this podcast 2 years ago and you're like, COVID's just not that big of a deal.
Oh,
it's not killing anybody.
This wouldn't have been a good sketch 2 years ago.
Well, of course
right?
not.
So I get that timing is everything.
Sure.
But again, I thought it was the comedy for me wasn't so much as the getting the COVID. It was like, oh, good, I've got 5 to 10 days off. And the idea
14
that
just to be safe.
We will come and we will turn your internet off so you don't have to Zoom.
Yep.
Like, because a lot of companies are forcing people to come back. They're, all these things. And everyone realizes that we're all overburdened, we're all overworked, and we're all tired still.
I have an employee right now that has it and is at home.
Zooming into gutter estimates.
No, and she said, do you want me to do it? I don't feel that bad. Do you want me to do anything? I was no, take the time. I mean, it is what it is.
I will say there was I had one of my logical hangups in this joke because they make a point of talking about how like when it was 2 different people, so it still works, but someone talks about how now they can like stay home and like they watch Netflix and stuff like that, but then the other person's talking about someone will come and shut off your Wi-Fi. It's like, well, you're not going to watch any Netflix if you're going to have your Wi-Fi shut off.
No, that was an addition if you wanted it.
I know.
It was an upgrade.
I know. But if someone were to do that, they would not be able to enjoy Netflix.
It was 2 different people.
I know. That's why I said.
But this is why Brad does Blu-ray.
That's true.
Physical media you can't turn off and they can't take it.
Physical media is king. It's mine. It's mine. No one's taking it.
So sketch-wise, again, this is a pre-tape. But did you laugh?
No. I thought the sketch was great. I liked this sketch a lot. I thought it was very funny, and I really enjoyed it.
I agree. I thought it was good. I thought it was a funny sketch.
This is a very funny sketch. I don't know
to the point. It was the best one of the night. Moving on, Jurors, written by Martin Herlihy, John Higgins, Ben Marshall, and Celestium. You know what? We didn't.
Let's just pass this one.
We didn't get a Please Don't Destroy sketch.
Whoa, hold on.
Wait,
don't be rude about this.
Let me move on.
Don't be rude about this sketch.
Stop. Let me describe it for our listeners.
Oh, sorry. Yes, please.
3 jurors, Amy Schumer, Bowen Yang, and Sarah Sherman, react to the details of a case in which a defendant, Marcelo Hernandez, is accused of murdering his wife. Heidi Gardner, Kenan Thompson, played the judge, and Andrew Dismukes also appear. You didn't like this, huh?
No.
Oh, I honestly, this started less funny and got funnier for me as it went.
The only thing that was funny about this was Kenan Thompson missing the gavel on the desk and then looking for it and kind of smiling.
Yeah.
And I love that.
No, I did think that I agree with Nate. It wasn't very funny at first, and it did get funnier. And I appreciated that it had a pretty decent ending as well.
Yep.
That they actually leaned into like the actual, murder mystery part of the case, and it actually became part of the thing as opposed to only focusing on, trying to make laughs.
I think it started off so rough that it never won me back over.
Oh no, that's fair. I
Sure.
don't blame you for that.
I agree. At the beginning, I kept on waiting for something, but then it got there for me. And then again, Bo and Yang can just do it for me. He can make me laugh. He's got that.
I will
Kenan
agree
too.
with that Bo and Yang has the ability to save sketches now.
Oh, but he didn't in
did not.
this episode,
He
especially later. But we'll get to that one.
Have either of you guys served on a jury before?
No.
I've been called once.
Did you went to the interview?
Yep, showed up in a full Klan outfit and got out of it.
They're having a hard time getting jurors.
Why didn't you wear a costume?
Oh, nobody. No, I got called, but then
Were you wanting to serve?
I was actually driving to the thing, and then I got a call from the government saying,
Just the government, just the
no,
government?
the person that calls you to tell you don't come
Oh, really?
because they
Isn't that like
they did a pretrial diversion or
Okay.
whatever, and it was literally though I was getting in the car to go. It was the morning of
For the juror interviews, or
Yeah.
like you actually got placed in the
for the juror interviews.
Okay.
Yeah.
I recently got a
Summons?
letter.
A summons,
Yeah, a
a
summons.
jury summons.
And I threw it away.
What? You can't do that.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're gonna.
I know.
They're
I
gonna
know.
put you on
Well-
on a case.
A dear friend of mine, shout out to Sergeant Adam Hannon, told me he lectured me because he said there are too many people doing that, and our jurors are terrible. He said right now because
If
the people,
I'm not joking, if I
the
got
people
called
that
to
want to
serve,
serve
I
on
would.
jurors are typically not the ones that
You would-
should
yeah.
serve on
I
jurors.
got jury duty years ago, but I told them I couldn't do it.
I
How do you do that? Just say, it doesn't really work for me.
No, yeah, I mean it was a thing where like I was unable to leave my job, or else I would not have any.
if you have
money.
a valid reason
Yeah.
that it will
Yeah.
impact your
A hardship
livelihood.
waiver, yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah, exactly.
And I have done that before when I was at work and the full-time estimator for the business. I had to do that one time. Nowadays, if it happened again, I would gladly serve. I really would.
I would now.
I'm more,
I feel
I'm
guilty.
more
but-
curious now about it.
Yeah.
Only for murders, though. Don't hit me with that
Yeah,
theft by deception.
yeah,
or
no
check
larceny.
fraud. Get out of here.
Yeah, no
Murder
no,
one or nothing
No,
for this
yeah,
place.
no hit and runs, nothing like that.
All right, moving on. Twitter Council written by Kara O'Sullivan, Josh Patton, Streeter Seidel, Will Steven. Content moderation meeting with Chloe Feynman and Kenan Thompson as the hosts. Several characters, Cecily Strong, Bowen Yang, Amy Schumer, Punky Johnson, and Donald Trump, played by James Austin Johnson, try to argue why they should be back on Twitter. I'm already tired of Twitter. I think all three of us love Twitter.
What do you mean? What's wrong with Twitter?
Stop.
It's got a certain musk about it these days.
Oh,
That was okay.
yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah,
I'm just
smells like shit.
I'm just tired of it all right now.
Oh, dude,
I'm just
you and
so
me both.
tired of it.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of the sketch? Though, did it work for you or not?
Parts of it did. I thought Amy Schumer was particularly good at doing that voice she put on as a bot. Like she sounded like a creepy, sexy baby, and that was perfect for
It was
that.
very
And
weird.
for some reason, that works for Brad.
It was a good choice, though.
Yeah,
really
it was. It
fun.
was really good. So yeah, I felt like there could have been a better framing device than just doing the same lazy. Oh, let's have someone walk up to a speaker and talk to us.
Because we just did that in the opening sketch.
exactly, and it filed through several different people to do it too. So like it felt like they should have come up with something better if they were going to have this and the cold open.
That's what it felt like for me. Again, it's a different joke than the opening sketch, but it felt very similar,
Yeah.
and I was done with it. I just didn't love it.
The issue I took with it was that if you're going to have the silly people be the ones walking into the microphone, then you shouldn't have the moderators themselves be silly about their reactions. But depending on the person, then Kenan would make a different decision, or like, oh, that's fine, or that's not. I don't know. They were both, there was no straight man really.
Yeah.
And that was tough.
I mean, James Austin Johnson, again, shout out to his Trump. It's always good. The jokes he hits.
These days, I can't tell if they're like that's not bad makeup. That's just what Trump looks like these days.
Yeah.
So it's like just
It is kind of odd. There was something that they didn't get right for some reason.
Drawn, and it was a little green.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's weird, or is that just Trump these days?
It just didn't work
Little
as well.
column A, little column B.
Yeah, it could have been. I don't know. I haven't seen the picture of the guy lately. Maybe he looks exactly like that.
It's been so nice not to see him.
Oh, I know.
Did you guys know? I just found this out.
Donald Trump is racist.
No, well, that. But did you know that each cast member has their own makeup person?
Oh, that makes sense.
Yes, I did not know that until I listened to a recent podcast.
But is that like for?
Well, think about this, because sometimes they're going to have 7 people in a sketch, and typically it's going to be probably the major ones. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Like the
Does
Please
Michael
Don't Destroy
Longfellow
guys aren't going to
his
have
own
their
makeup guy?
own.
Yeah.
Michael Longfellow might share with somebody else, but
Yeah, because I know
like Cecily Strong is going to have her own makeup person. Bowen Yang is going to have his own makeup person.
the guy on Twitter that I follow, the Louis as special effects guy or whatever that does stuff. He posts stuff after every week of SNL. I know he does a lot of like prosthetics, and he's done them for like a variety of people.
Are prosthetics different than makeup though?
I think it just depends. Like prosthetics and makeup can kind of go hand in hand, but like
the makeup has to.
But like his stuff is a lot. It's usually the stuff that's like much more extensive, where like you need like an entire face piece or like
like a head wound Harry situation.
Yeah, stuff like that.
I only know that because I was listening to. Actually, I think it was the podcast you and I listened to with Jason Bateman. What's that one? Smartless. Tony Hill was on there. Did you listen to that one?
I have not listened to that one yet.
His wife worked at SNL, and she was a makeup artist, and he talked about,
that's cool.
That's how they actually met. He was in New York City at the time, and she was working at SNL as a makeup artist, and he kind of gave a little. I just kind of like when you see at the end of sketches all of the work starting for the next sketch.
Yeah,
I always like those little glimpses into the show that you didn't know before.
100%.
So, all right, moving on. Pre-tape The Looker, written by Rosebud Baker and Streeter Seidel. Streeter had a lot of work, a lot of sketches in today. A Family, played by James Austin Johnson, Amy Schumer, Marcelo Hernandez, and Chloe Fineman. Marcelo was in a lot too. Gets an anonymous letter that details everything about the family, including the wife, Amy Schumer's obsession with the Property Brothers. Before we get into this, I got a quiz for you. All right, what are the Property Brothers' names? Go.
Oh, it's got to be something like Eric and Jake.
Aaron and Phil.
Drew and Jonathan Scott. But here's a.
I mean, come on, we were both
that was my second guess.
pretty much the same.
No. I've got.
names.
Here's the next question. This is going to tie into SNL. Jonathan Scott has been dating a former host of SNL since 2019. This person hosted the show on February 11th, 2012. Who is the Property Brothers dating? Well, Jonathan Scott of the Property Brothers dating.
If
Former host.
Valentine's Day show 2012, Helen Mirren. No.
February 2012. I'm gonna say Kate Hudson.
Those are actually incorrect.
No.
The
Eliza Dushku.
Oh, that's not a bad answer, but the answer is Zooey Deschanel.
Oh,
That's your quiz for today. All right, what'd you guys think of the sketch?
I liked it.
yes,
I really did.
I did too.
I thought it was very solid.
And what's great about it is that it's a parody of Netflix's new series, The Watcher, but you don't have to see it to really.
I didn't even know.
I didn't know that either. I knew it was parodying something. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, and you don't, and so that just goes to show you don't need to see the show to really appreciate this parody, because the humor comes from like just the simple idea of the stalker like pointing out like the weird things that Amy Schumer is doing as the wife of the family.
It was so great. It was
yeah.
Why is he only making things about?
I know she played this so well too. Like she did it really well,
Yeah.
and every time it was just. I love the premise of this: somebody watching, and essentially seeing all the worst things about you.
So good.
Because that horror premise. And we host another podcast. We talk about horror movies and other movies, but that premise of somebody watching you is not an unfamiliar premise. But they never talk about like I watched you on the crapper 4 times today. Are you okay?
Are you
Yeah.
okay?
More fiber.
I
please.
watched you watching the Property Brothers.
Also, and I loved how cartoonish she was about pleasuring herself. Like,
Yeah, it was-
the way she was just jerking her hand up and down.
Just all wide-eyed
Yeah.
and weird about it. Yeah, it was so funny. Wait, is that not how it works?
What do you mean?
Okay, moving on.
All right. we are halfway through here at the time where you get to determine, or at least our Bratty gets to determine whether or not there was an emotional connection between our Weekend Update hosts. It's time for Weekend Update with Colin Jost and Michael Che. Weekend Update hosts Colin Jost and Michael Che cover the week's biggest news stories before we talk about a Cecily Strong bit that she did on Weekend Update. Let's go directly to Brad here. I thought the jokes were great. I really enjoyed this Weekend Update. Maybe you didn't. I did. But did you think there was enough chemistry between the two hosts? Because again, you think there is a bromance that needs to come out a little bit.
Yes.
Do you think there was?
Yes. Then
very much so. Huh?
They are
more so than ever. Like this season.
Maybe actually, but only.
I don't think you've really thought that.
But only slightly. No, I honestly, the past this being the third, the past three editions of Weekend Update have all been great as far as the jokes are concerned.
Yep, agreed.
And also they have had a good like back and forth as far as like reacting to jokes, like making little asides to each other, making each other.
So
laugh,
they mended whatever was wrong with them, and they made up.
Right now they are on a very good roll. I hope they can keep this momentum going, and if they do, we can take it all the way to the Super Bowl.
What do you think?
I always enjoy Che and Joe's. I look forward to it every single week, as if the show's not going that well, that this is gonna be a reprieve, and I can at least count on some of the jokes being very biting. Michael Che especially is just, I think he's really in his element this year. I think he's very biting, and he doesn't give a shit, and he's never given a shit, but this season specifically, I'm really into him.
Do you think that it's better a little bit because they have more time just to focus on Weekend Update? Che and Jost are writing more sketches than they typically do. It's not uncommon for them to have a sketch in an episode, and last year they usually didn't because again, as head writers, and they're no longer head writers.
But they're also, as far as I know, at least as far as SNL history is concerned and how it works, they're not writing all of these jokes.
No, there is a head writer for Weekend Update, right? And there's a team that just works on it. But obviously, what are they doing? They're probably mostly working on Weekend Update. They're not head writers anymore, right?
Yeah.
This is their baby right now. This is the thing in the show that they're doing. Do you think that has maybe had a, is that maybe why it has been so good this year so far?
I think it's a fair guess, yeah.
Yeah, if you have more time to work on anything, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be better. And they're very good at their jobs, and they're very honed in. They've been doing it for a long time, and it's not stale at all. I
think that's a great way to say it. They just seem to a little more honed in right now, right? Yeah. I imagine as head writers, your head's
stretched
everywhere,
1,000
right?
directions, for sure.
Weekend Update, I agree, has been fairly, just really good, really strong this year. All right, move to the Weekend Update bit. There's only one, Tammy the Trucker, on gas prices and definitely not abortion, written by Cecily Strong. This is not the only time Cecily Strong has done a Weekend Update bit on abortion. This is a topic I actually listened. I did not read. I listened to her book, and she talks about these
Thank
topics.
you for clarifying, because one of our hosts on the show,
you read her book then. Nate.
One of our hosts on the show has a history of claiming they've read a book when they've only listened to it.
Well, I feel like that's cheating. I did listen to the book.
Thank you, Nate.
And it was good.
I appreciate it.
There's nothing wrong with just listening to a book, right? It's just not reading it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
So what book did you read?
Cecily Strong. She had a book come out a year or two ago.
But you didn't read it though.
And it's a really sad book. By the way, it's about her cousin that dies. But she does talk about some of these things that she's very passionate about. And politics is one of the things she is actually very passionate about, and abortion rights being one of them. And it's come across in the show a couple times. Did you think she did this well here? Do you think the point came across? Obviously, it was not nuanced, right?
No, not at all.
Do you think she made it in a poignant way?
The first time she did this was when she was the clown character.
Yeah, clown, correct.
And that was very obviously pointed and very direct.
It felt like a moment that stopped America, honestly. It was one of those moments
really was. And
went viral.
I don't know that was necessarily lightning in a bottle per se, and this would be an attempt to recreate that. I think that this is too important to her to that's not why she's doing this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
She's not trying to capture America's attention again.
Well, I disagree.
Hold on, not because it was for the clicks. Like, oh, it was good. We should do that again because it was good.
No, exactly. She's doing it because it's election season, and it's still an important issue because nothing has really changed.
Exactly.
And like you're voting on the people who are going to decide this and hopefully change this and make it better for women. Considering it as a sketch, I don't think it works quite as well as it did the first time when she did it with the clown. It was still funny. It was still very, very pointed, and what she was talking about and how she did it was great. Especially how she she's very good at just being like nonchalant and kind of like just like throwing like yeah, whatever, yeah, here, take the steering
The steering
wheel,
wheels, whatever. Yeah. It's
like,
part of this bit I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm just keeping up this bit, but whatever, and so like that was a very funny thing that the way she carried herself and did that. But yeah, I prefer the clown bit. Still very good, still very important, still great stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, wasn't there a point where Colin even says, Cecily, are you okay? Right? So there was the fourth wall breaking there too.
Yeah.
And that was part of it, right? The comedy was written in there, but they used to do that again kind of with in previous, frustrating kind of things where a cast member comes on and they do a bit where they're clearly frustrated about something.
Kate McKinnon did it during the pandemic.
Yeah. For me, it didn't seem. I think I get what you're saying a little bit, Ben, on this, in that I'm not sure Cecily cared as much to go viral.
No.
I think she's pissed, and I think she wants to work her frustration out, and she works her frustration out in comedy and bits. Like, it just seemed like there was a layer to there where, like, again, the word frustrating comes. She's just frustrated, right? That here we are again at the cusp of a red wave where a year ago or 6 months ago, really, many people would say, well, this was going to change the election, and that we'd have probably a lot more, people standing up for abortion rights. And here we are again. Maybe that didn't happen, right? And I think for good reason, she's frustrated, and it works its way out. I actually appreciate that she does this because it's a good way to, I think, be politically engaged, to remind us that comedy is more than just laughs. It can have poignant moments to bring us to thinking about deeper things. So
we were down in Florida a couple weeks back on vacation, and my friend Susan, friend of the pod, Susan Swarner.
Hey, Susan.
Works.
She's a friend of our other pod, but
works at a museum. And she talks about when the kids learn, and it's not direct learning from a book, but it's more informal learning or indirect learning, where you're just kind of doing a thing, and oh, by the way, you learn something out kind of like on accident. And I feel like Cecily Strong doing this bit on Weekend Update is a way to use comedy as the vehicle for knowledge. And I want to see more of that from SNL, because it is important to use comedy in that way to change people's minds for the better and be that progressive thing that you want to see in the world. You're not going to say, well, here's the facts, and this is why you should pay attention. Click, snooze, boring. But if you can package it in a way that people are actually going to vibe and listen to it, then you're going to get through to a lot more people. And that's exactly what something like this does.
And we did just say 30 minutes ago how we're tired of a lot of the political comedy that SNL is doing. Again, not because we don't like political comedy. It's because we don't like the way they're doing political comedy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's been kind of seemingly, again, not to be unkind, but a little bit lazy, honestly. Yeah. This didn't seem that way.
This is the opposite of lazy comedy. This is very, very pointed and sharp and edgy and structured in a way that makes you think, which all good comedy should.
Yeah. All right, moving on. A sketch called Jets Fans, written by Mikey Day, Streeter Seidel, Brian Tucker. New York Jets fans, Kenan Thompson, Andrew Dismukes, Amy Schumer, Cecily Strong, insults Buffalo Bills fans with Michael Longfellow, Heidi Gardner, and James Austin Johnson. Mikey Day plays an officer. Hey, I do have another quiz for you guys.
Oh.
We love games here.
I love games.
All right. Which SNL great is one of the biggest Jets fans in America?
Biggest Jets fans?
Isn't it Adam Sandler?
What's your guess, Ben?
I mean, he's a huge New York sports fan, so he's got to be. It's got to be him.
It is Adam Sandler, and he has put the Jets in multiple movies of his. Can you think of any?
Big Daddy, specifically. I know there's a scene when he takes the kid to the bar, and actually the waitress, played by his real wife, who would become his wife, asks...
who is, I think, in the Rob Schneider's latest movie.
Great. Yeah, she asked the kid, she's like, who do you want to win? And he goes, the goddamn Jets.
All right, I'm going to give you a couple more instances of him putting the Jets in. He is an over-the-top Jets fans, which, again, when you understand Adam Sandler's comedy and his, like uproarious kind of just yelling, this sketch fits, right? So a couple other things. Sandler's character buys the Jets in Mr. Deeds.
Yep.
In Sandler's Little Nicky, Satan refuses to buy Dan Marino's soul in exchange for a Super Bowl ring because the Prince of Darkness is a Jets fan.
There you go.
And Sandler gave Rex Ryan a cameo in That's My Boy, in which the then Jets coach played a Patriots fan.
There you go.
So
An all-time classic. That's my boy.
Yes.
one of the worst, right?
We love comedy.
We do love comedy.
Yeah. We like
But
to
again,
laugh.
I thought a Jets fan, Adam Sandler, because when I watched this sketch, there were a couple times in there where I thought of Adam Sandler, and I thought, I wonder if, before I knew he was a Jets fan, I thought, I bet Adam Sandler's a Jets fan because he would work, and he is. But this sketch, did it work for non-football fans? Jets are known as the worst fans in all of sportsdom. Does it work?
I mean, yeah, as somebody who doesn't give a shit about the Jets or football or most sports, like this was still a hilarious sketch because no matter what, even if you don't like sports, you know the persona of sports fans like this.
Yep.
The crazy people who are tailgating out for hours and like are always yelling and going crazy about stuff, painting their face, this kind of thing. And so, yeah, this was just, it was funny, especially too because it just works on a sheer basic comedic level of having a calm conversation talking about kids bullying each other and then being like, hey,
Where do they get that from? Right?
So I liked this sketch. I liked it. I had a real issue with the universe that it built because I think that this would have been, of course, a hilarious. This could have been an all-timer if they wouldn't have nerfed themselves so much with the script. You friggin' a-hole.
Yeah,
it was so
I agree.
tough, and it took me so out of it, especially when there are so many words that sound terrible that aren't.
Yeah.
That you could have just used. They say douchebag and what did she say? Suck my sleeve.
That was
hilarious.
That was the funniest part to me, and I wish that they would have done more things of
You guys are
just saying strange things.
professional comedy writers. Given carte blanche here to do whatever you want, and it kept coming back to you friggin' a-hole.
Yeah, that's a good point. That could have been a really
it could have been amazing use
great
of dialogue.
comedy bit to use that as a form of introducing some.
But it was still very funny.
No, the premise is great, and the way that they did it with like the little kids and the wheelchair and all that. That's really funny. That's really funny. I just really wish they would have gone heavier with like actual insults rather than censoring themselves, because in that world you would never censor. It would be fucking asshole. And so just choose a different thing that you can actually say.
Yeah.
That's all.
I agree with that, but I
know I'm nitpicking here, but
it was very funny still.
Very funny.
And Cecily Strong looked like she was about to break several times throughout the sketch.
All right. Speaking of going heavier, next sketch, Pink's period underwear, written by Alice.
Gross.
Grow up.
You have a wife and a daughter.
We are literally over here talking about comedy, sir.
Jeez Louise.
You're so happy with
He's so
yourself.
proud.
Right
I bet you he wrote that down and he's like,
as soon as Ben goes, and it needed to go heavier, I thought, I got my intro.
Here we go.
All right, Pink's period underwear, written by Allison Gates and Celeste Yim. Three women try Pink's period underwear, played by Amy Schumer, Chloe Fineman, and Ego Nwodum. Mikey Day and Devin Walker, Schumer and Nwodum's characters' boyfriends. Cecily Strong, again, as the commercial announcer. What'd you guys think of this?
I thought it was very funny.
Yeah.
It did feel like maybe they should have figured out a way to vary up the joke a bit, because even though there was a level of like absurdity coming from the the animal reaction kept increasing and like that got a little bit more heightened, I felt like it was like pretty much the same joke the entire way through, And
it is.
And so it was entertaining. I still thought it was funny. And like the way it's framed as a pre-taped, it was done very well. But yeah, I was hoping for a little more variation.
A little bit more escalation, if you will.
Yes.
Otherwise, no, it's solid. I'll give it a solid.
Agreed. All right, moving on. WKTVN News, written by Ken Sublett and Celeste Yim. Celeste, kudos. Man, you worked hard this episode. News reporter Michael Longfellow interviews two cousins, played by Cecily Strong, Amy Schumer, and Strong's character's partner, Bowen Yang. Neighbors James Austin Johnson and Marcelo Hernandez also appear. This was triggering for me because it reminded me of the trailer park I grew up in. It was like, I know these people. If you had put a camera in front of me and my family growing up, this probably would have been the stories.
The fun thing about LaPorte is you don't have to have grown up in a trailer park to have grown up around these people.
Exactly.
But yeah, this sketch was a rough one.
And a miss.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Nope.
It felt like this was the kind of sketch that they would have done in like the 90s around the time when Jerry Springer was popular.
Yep.
and like I don't know
a good
why
point,
they
yep.
thought that this was a good idea.
What? So that's the confusing thing. What's the impetus for this?
Yeah, exactly.
There's
Hey,
nothing
hey,
really-
you know what'd be funny is if we just had some rednecks disagreeing after a fire.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cool. I guess.
Neat.
And the Cecily Strong, Amy Schumer thing, it wasn't compelling. Like there was no real good comedy there. And then at the end, you can already predict they're gonna patch things up. And like you said, it was I never thought about very Jerry Springer-esque, very what was comedy back in the 90s.
Doing a lot of weird stuff around the straight man who has his first day at work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course they kept saying this is my first day, this
Yeah.
this is whatever. But they didn't really do anything with it other than keep referring to it as
Like it should have been weirder.
Yeah, exactly. If
Yeah.
you're gonna do that, again, you've got to escalate, man.
Bowen Yang, try as he might at being hilarious
He did not
with
save
his
this one.
with his little high pitched redneck voice
and his mustache. His mustache was great.
I love that effeminate, flamboyant Southern drawl. Whenever any character, actor, comedian can do that, it's very funny to me. I especially love when Zach Galifianakis does it.
Oh my God, it's Seth Galifianakis.
Yeah, so funny. But it just didn't work well. And then also, I will point out one of those magical technical glitches that SNL sketches have that are fixed when they post the sketch online. The first instance of Cecily and Amy Schumer lifting up their shirts, they clearly had some kind of green screen shirt on, and it was meant to be filled with pixelation as a chroma key replacement, like how they do Weather Channel maps or like special effects. However, whatever they did the first time, it must have not been activated properly, or they were zoomed in too close to it, because all you could see was like pixels, but they were very big and they weren't moving the way it would if it was actually pixelated. They made it a little bit better the second time they did it on the live show, but if you go watch it online as the sketch they posted on YouTube and whatnot, it is perfect. And they actually did it without the green screen effect. They just did it over their bodies with actual graphics, and pixelation. So it was, and that ruined that gag. When they did it the first time, it's like, oh well, that's not supposed to be like that.
Yeah, this is just a weird selection. Like, why was this in the mix?
Bad sketch. Worst of the night.
Yeah, I agree. That was by far the worst of the night. Moving on, Big Penis Therapy, written by Michael Che and Gary Richardson, a man played by Andrew Dismukes, goes to Big Penis Therapy.
I was happy to see
to talk about his issues.
That they talked about the therapy that we all get on SNL.
Finally, mental health is important, guys.
We need to be represented.
By the way, Cecily Strong once again announces the sketch at the end.
There you go.
She is just on
She's
fire.
very good at the voiceover.
Man, this was so good.
It was very funny.
So funny.
Yes, I like this a lot.
Amy Schumer killed it in this. I thought she was just so. Actually, the premise was. I never even thought of the premise
from
before.
Front to back.
Yep.
Everything about this it worked.
Yep.
Right. So Dismukes is completely falling for it. Character, Amy Schumer's character being like, hey, shut the hell up, shut up. She did such a good job. And then who were the other people in the sketch that played the
Ego Nwodim and Sarah Sherman?
So they were great at that kind of not understanding, pushing back the other way. All of them did such a great job at the back and forth.
And Dismukes is just slight smarminess, like, well, they're in with therapy.
He does that really well, by the way.
Yeah.
He does that kind of smarmy, but also nerdy.
It's not for everyone, but it is for me.
You guys know that those people that are like kind of nerdy, but they think they're cooler than they are, and they're smarmy.
Redford.
But
you can both go fuck yourself. I'm cooler than both of you.
I thought this was really well written, really well executed, really well.
Very, very good sketch.
All right. Big Dumb Hat, offending every 20 to 40-year-old woman we know right now. Written by Allison Gates and Ken Sublett. 3 women played by Chloe Fineman, Heidi Gardner, and Amy Schumer. Talk about their big dumb hats. Marcelo Hernandez plays a guy wearing a big dumb hat. I dare you guys to post that on your social media sites and see how many of your friends love it.
So everyone named Ashley and Kylie has a big dumb hat. I do. So I like the premise. I like what they were trying to do here. It didn't work tremendously well. It didn't work tremendously well. But I will say, every time they kept coming back to the big dumb hat, like just the fact that they kept saying it, that part I really liked.
I thought the sketch was hilarious.
I did too.
I feel like it totally nailed exactly the kind of people who wear these stupid fucking hats
they're big dumb
when fall comes around. like just all the various descriptions they had for the people that would wear these hats. I liked that not only was it true to comedy in that way, but it also took it to an absurd level by having the hat with the coffee in it, and then having the pizza slice and everything, and of course the big giant hat. The hat kept growing and getting bigger, and so I loved.
You're
this
just
sketch.
a big Turd Ferguson fan, so you really like any big hat.
And is Heidi Gardner almost always laughing, or is that just her? Because did you like in the hat?
No, she
like,
was because it was so awkward on her head, and she was being so she
was having a hard time grabbing it too.
Yeah. It's no, I mean.
Like this is a very influencer culture type of sketch, right? Because I've
oh my
seen
god,
this.
I laughed so hard at the one where she says posting a picture from her wedding every day.
Yep.
Oh god, that was so funny.
It was just perfect.
I've seen that.
Exactly.
Right?
So many influencers are always posting pictures from their fucking wedding, and your wedding was 5 years ago.
Yeah. No. Maybe I'm a little softened on this one, Brad. I think you won me over.
It's very funny.
So it's a funny sketch.
All right,
Nate, did you like this sketch?
I did. I actually love this. I don't know if they needed to do the bigger hat each time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny, but it was funny enough even without it. Like
it really was.
The whole parody of and the making fun of.
But it just added another piece.
It certainly did. It made it a little more absurd, which is great.
Worse.
It didn't.
Yeah.
But I don't think they needed to because again, pointing out the comedy of all of this. The boots, the hat, that we all think were unique,
all
and
of
then
them have a child named Braxton.
Yeah, yes, Thor. So there were no cut for time sketches that were put online so far. By the time we recorded this on Tuesday, so we're not going to talk about any of that. We're going to get down to brass tacks here. We're going to go with first, what was your favorite sketch of the night? And then we'll go to MVP. Now, if you are not following us on Facebook, I would love for you to do that because we're actually asking you now who you thought was the MVP.
You guys are the stars.
And what you thought was the sketch of the night. It's actually fun. We had some people, participate. And what always gets us is, and what we love is that we have listeners that we don't know, right?
Yeah.
We don't know from areas that we don't live in. So if you are watching or listening to this podcast and you want to participate in this, about Monday we'll put it out there, and we'd love to hear what you think is the sketch of the night, and maybe we'll bring you into the podcast as well. So, Brad, what did you think? What was the sketch of the night?
Big Dumb Hat was my favorite sketch of the night.
Really?
It really was. I liked Big Dumb Hat a lot. I thought it was very funny, and it was my favorite sketch of the night.
I liked Big Penis Therapy.
I bet you did.
I knew you were going to say it.
I'm going to say, and this is the first time I think we've actually not had one of us be the same, right? Usually it's 2-on-1 or whatever, or it's 3. The Looker was my favorite.
Okay.
It's a good choice.
I really enjoyed that one. All right. Cast member of the night, MVP, Ben, let's go with you.
Cecily Strong.
Cecily Strong was my pick as well.
That was my pick as well.
It's what can we say? Is she?
I'm so glad she's back. Right.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the show was missing something without her, and it absolutely was.
Yeah.
I'm so glad she's
aside from the weekend update stuff, like she was strong throughout the night. She has like kind of thankless positions too. Like we talked about her voiceover many times, and that's an integral part of like really putting you in the vibe of those sketches.
I don't think many people, when you talk about kind of current cast members that will be known as legends, maybe you wouldn't include Cecily Strong up until this point, but you realize when she's gone how important she is to the show, and when she's back how legendary she is. So she is for me
like
just
back in the day
a legend. She's really solidifying that.
Like Anna Gasteyer was very, very well known on the show, but then after she left, I don't think people talk about like the legendary Anna Gasteyer, right?
Yeah.
They talk about the legendary Maya Rudolph, the legendary Tina Fey, the legendary Amy Poehler, and I don't know if Cecily Strong will be in that camp or she will be more of an Anna Gasteyer as history remembers her. I think she's got a great chance at being an all-timer.
I think part of that too is the names you mention are people who went on to have bigger careers after SNL, and Anna Gasteyer didn't really. She's been in stuff here and there. Because even someone like Molly Shannon, she's been around. She's done a lot of stuff since then.
She's doing some really good stuff right now.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily stuff where it's like it's all over and everyone's talking about it. But yeah, so I hope so. I would like. I'm very interested to see what Cecily Strong's career is like after SNL.
Also, if you take Cecily Strong out of this episode for some reason, I got to say that I would have had to give it to Amy Schumer after that because she really did a great job in everything she was in. She tried she was willing to do everything.
See,
the monologue was strong. She did a great job.
I have my own rule when it comes to naming the host for MVPs because, like, for me personally, like, we've talked about this before. Like, if I want the host to be the MVP, they have to like really surprise me and impress me because, like, you're supposed to be the star of the show, and it's assumed that you're probably, hopefully, going to be good and be the center of attention.
See, but that's the thing. Like,
hold on, let me
being
finish.
center of attention.
Let me finish.
It's not assuming you're going to be good.
Hold on, let me finish.
But it's
of course, that's what I was about to say. If you would stop talking and interrupting me, is that they're not necessarily always going to be good, but the idea is that they are good enough because they've been asked to host that they should be. But when I am a little more hesitant to give it to a good host when they are already inclined as a comedian like she is, because she has extensive experience in stand-up comedy and sketch comedy because she has her own sketch comedy show that is named after her, Inside Amy Schumer, and it just came back on Paramount Plus. So yes, she's great on SNL for sure, but it's not anything that I didn't expect her to be because I have seen and appreciated what she has already done. So like it would have taken some astronomical level of surprise, for me to give Amy Schumer the MVP. But she was great in this episode, and she is a good SNL host. And I told Nate this when we were on a highway drive recently. I thought that this episode, with the exception of a couple sketches, felt like a live version of Inside Amy Schumer because so much of it was female-centric comedy centered around Amy Schumer's comedic stylings, and it really felt like stuff that she would have done herself on her own show.
I like everything you said. I just disagree that the host is expected to be good because they're not.
Well, I do think we have different qualifications of whether or not the host can be the MVP.
Yeah, Ben has none. Mine is mine makes sense. And well, that's the show.
No, hey, we got to talk about next week. Do we have another episode?
Well,
I don't really want to.
We'll see.
No, we will. We're going to do an episode.
Here's the thing that
Dave Chappelle is hosting.
Yeah, and here's the thing that we want to put out there. If you're one of those people out there who complains about people being too woke and people being too sensitive to comedy and not being able to take jokes, let me just say fuck you. And I want to say that because we are people who are very appreciative of comedy. There's a time and place for all kinds of jokes about all kinds of things. There's great racial humor out there. There's great sexual humor out there. There's great
religious humor. Right?
Great religious humor. There's humor that focuses on everything, anything, and everything. Yep. Dave Chappelle has reached a point where the comedy he's doing, A, is not as great as it used to be, and B, it's prejudiced in a way that isn't funny. Are there jokes about race and sex and all these different things that define us that are funny but still make fun of people or something about them? Absolutely. What Dave Chappelle is doing when it comes to the jokes he tells about trans people and the trans community, they're not funny, they're hurtful, they're ignorant, and he refuses to acknowledge it. And he's coasting on his accolades and writing that out, and people are afraid to really come down on him because of who he is. And he needs to be held accountable, not just for saying these things that are harmful and bigoted, but also because they're not funny. Like that when it comes down to it, he's not as funny as he used to be. And so it's those two things combined that make this so frustrating to hear. Someone who used to be great, not willing to take responsibility for how their words harm other people. And so that's why we're not excited about seeing this new episode with Dave Chappelle, because he's not who he used to be. It's really frustrating. And I don't know how easy it's going to be to enjoy, especially if he uses his monologue to say more stupid shit.
And I don't know about you guys, I have been a huge Dave Chappelle fan, right?
Yes.
And so
Killing Them Softly, I think, is one of the best stand-up hours of all time.
So we will review it. We'll watch it. I completely understand people don't want to again encourage. I don't think it was a good choice to bring him right now. This is a Lorne Michaels thing after elections. It seems to be the last two elections, now the third. He brings Dave Chappelle on, and after the 2020 election, Chappelle did great. It was really a moment that met that time.
This just feels like
but he's not the same person.
This feels like a very flying blind choice by Lorne. To be like, oh, this is what we've done before. It has worked in the past. I'm going to ignore what's going on currently, and we're just going to do this again. And I don't think it's going to work out in their favor.
I think one of the writers, maybe it was Celestium, that wrote something on Twitter or Instagram about it. It certainly didn't name Dave Chappelle, but essentially talking about standing with trans rights, these kind of things. I think she might be non-binary or something. But again, I think it does put the cast in the writers in a weird place.
Yeah, it's not
Dave
quite
Chappelle has not really. apologized or even really navigated the
If anything,
the awkwardness.
he's actively
doubled down.
refused
He's
to.
doubled down
Yeah,
on this.
exactly.
I just can't wait for how many times he thinks his own shit is funny and just slaps the mic on his knee. It's so great when he does that after a mediocre joke. It's going to be super fun to see.
So we'll be back next week. We'll have another episode, and we'll talk a little bit about that, and hopefully it goes well.
And also get well, Chris Redd. Did you guys see that he got attacked in New York?
The dude's had a weird 6 to 8 months, right? I mean, he's left the show unexpectedly.
Gets assaulted outside of the Manhattan Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
Like at 9:30 at night.
Like seriously
really
assaulted.
bad. Yeah.
So
And I was with you guys that night.
Jesus Christ.
No, Chris Redd also does. Well, it might cheer him up to know if people are watching his new stand-up comedy special that's available on HBO Max. So,
Did you watch it?
I haven't watched it yet, but I know it's there.
All right. Well, where can people find you, Brad?
At Ethan_Anderton on Twitter. I write at slashfilm.com, where you can check out my reviews of new episodes of SNL Sunday at the day after new episodes air. And yeah, there you go. Just check it out.
Ben and I are online too. You can find us if you want. More importantly, find us on Facebook. Go to our podcast page. Go to our Twitter page.
YouTube.
Listen to our other. Yeah, we're on YouTube as well. If that's where we actually get more and more listeners on YouTube now. Again, I think it's just a lot of people.
People love
use
watching
YouTube.
podcasts.
It's because you're doing it with unboxing videos as well. Like you're unboxing new technology devices. As
It's not a bad idea.
So again, find us, listen to our other podcasts that we do every week as well. Go Flicks Yourself, where we talk about our love of movies, different trailers coming out, new movies coming out this week. Brad and I am sure going to talk about a film that we just saw last night. What did we see, Brady?
We saw Black Panther. Wakanda
You
Forever.
sound so nonplussed about it.
Oh no, we're excited. All right. That's all we have for tonight. We'll talk to you soon. Keep listening. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Bye-bye.